Welcome to the Explainer. I am so glad you're here. Look, if you've ever stared at a graded essay and just felt that instant pang of frustration over points lost to, poor citation formatting or a weak argument, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're basically treating the writing process like a construction site. We're opening up the ultimate writer's toolkit for using evidence. Okay, let's dive into this and look at the actual nuts and bolts of how you can immediately upgrade your next writing project. Think of this as opening up your masterclass toolkit. First up, we'll look at why evidence really matters. Then we'll unpack the SIEL writing framework. After that, choosing your evidence type, handling the heavy machinery of the block quote, and finally, putting up the guardrails to avoid common mistakes. Section 1. Why evidence really matters. Laying the foundation for your argument. So if writing an analytical essay is kind of like building a house, you can't just throw up a roof and call it a day, right? You need a solid foundation and sturdy walls. And that is exactly what evidence provides. Let's be real, evidence isn't just filler to hit a word count. It fundamentally matters because it supports your claim. It's your absolute essential building material. It takes those abstract ideas floating around in your head and grounds them directly into the tangible text you're studying. And honestly, it acts as a crucial springboard that leads right into your own analysis. Without it, you aren't really arguing. You're just giving an unsupported opinion. Section 2, the SIEL writing framework, the blueprint for analytical paragraphs. Every good construction project needs a blueprint, and the SIEL method is your highly reliable core operating system here. Crafting a successful paragraph happens in 4 distinct chronological steps. First, you state your claim. That's the core argument you're making. Second, you illustrate with your evidence, pulling that directly from the text. Third, you explain. This is where your brilliant analysis actually blossoms. You tell the reader exactly what that evidence means. And finally, you link it all together, creating a clear connection right back to your main thesis. State, illustrate, explain, link. And this brilliantly illustrates how an idea moves from a simple claim all the way to a deeply connected argument. It's that simple and it's that powerful. Section 3. Choosing your evidence type. Selecting the right tool for the job. Now that we've got the blueprint, let's actually open up the toolkit. Just like a carpenter wouldn't use a massive sledgehammer to drive a tiny finishing nail, different writing situations require distinctly different types of evidence. In your analytical toolkit, you basically have 3 main tools at your disposal. You can paraphrase, you can use a direct quote, or you can deploy a block quote. Let's take a closer look and compare exactly how and when to use each of these effectively. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between our first 2 tools. On the left, we've got the paraphrase. This is when you put the text into your own words. It's fantastic for focusing on a broad idea rather than getting bogged down in specific wording. But hey, quick reminder, even if it's in your own words, you absolutely still have to cite the source. Now, on the right, we have the direct quote. You use this when you need the exact words from the text. It should be short, highly focused, and deployed specifically when you want to analyze the precise language the author used. And let me give you a quick example of how powerful a short, focused direct quote can really be. Check out this sentence. Words described as sharp and cut deep show emotional intensity. Notice how the writer isolated just those very specific words, sharp and cut deep. By keeping the direct quote short, it lets you, the writer, laser focus your analysis on the specific language and the real emotional weight those words carry. Section 4. Mastering the block quote. Handling heavy machinery. Okay, so if paraphrasing is a screwdriver and direct quotes are a hammer, the block quote is a bulldozer. It's powerful, it takes up a lot of real estate on the page, and you have to handle it with care. Before we fire up this heavy machinery, we need to establish a factual law of the writing universe, the MLA block quote rule. Standard MLA dictates that when quoting more than 3 lines of poetry, you must format it as a block quote and strictly follow the original formatting of the poem. But actually, let me add a quick note here. For this specific class requirement, a block quote is triggered when you use more than 5 lines. Just keep that in mind. So what are the actual formatting guardrails for this heavy machinery? First up, you indent the entire quote from the left margin. Second, and oh man, this trips people up all the time, you use absolutely no quotation marks around the block itself, 0. The indentation actually acts as the quotes. And third, you keep the actual physical line breaks of the poem. Now remember, for shorter poetry quotes woven directly into your sentence, you'd use a forward slash to show line breaks, but in a block quote, you format it visually exactly as it appears on the printed page.
Let's look at what a beautifully executed block quote actually looks like in practice. This is an emotionally intense excerpt from Tony Keith Jr.'s 2025 collection, Knucklehead, poems, specifically from the poem Because When I Write I'm Dangerous. It reads, "And so I'd make my own time to write. I'd pause to extinguish myself, to cool myself down, to cleanse myself out, to keep from turning into ashes." Notice how visually striking that is. The indents are there, the exact line breaks are preserved just as I paused reading them, and there are no messy quotation marks distracting the eye.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the rest of your essay. You've just dropped this massive piece of evidence on the page. Well, you can't just leave it there and walk away. After a block quote, you have to do the heavy lifting. You've got to analyze the patterns and the repetition you just showed the reader. You need to explain the vivid imagery, like that phrase turning into ashes. And most importantly, you must connect it directly back to your thesis.
Section 5. Avoiding common mistakes. Putting up the guardrails.
All right, we've built the structure. Now we just need to make sure we don't accidentally drive our essay right off a cliff. Let's look at the errors that consistently tank grades. And look, we've all been guilty of these at some point for sure. First up is the universal student crime of dropping quotes. This is essentially doing a hit and run, where you just leave a quote stranded in a paragraph with no introduction or context. Please, don't do that. Second is providing way too little explanation. And third, which is perhaps the most dangerous trap of all, is giving a summary instead of an analysis. Telling me what the quote says, that's summary. Telling me why it matters, that is analysis. So, the crucial point is captured right here in this simple, bold formula. Evidence plus explanation equals analysis. Think back to our SIL framework for a second. The illustrate step, that's your evidence. But the explain step is where the magic actually happens. Without your explanation, the evidence is literally just words sitting on a page. You need both parts to achieve true analysis. I really want you to cement this formula right into your memory. I want to leave you with this somewhat provocative question to challenge your own writing habits before you sit down to draft your next paragraph. Ask yourself, are you truly analyzing your evidence, or are you just summarizing it? Remember your toolkit, folks. Use the right evidence, format it perfectly, and then build your argument by explaining exactly why it matters. Keep learning, keep structuring those thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.